You are live, and here we go. Here we are again.
Yes, and today we are gonna talk about my industry to some extent, I guess. Because before we decided on this topic, I told you that I would love to talk about topic of testing, and testing again, because
Hmm.
to some extent my business is in testing industry, because digital marketing these days, it's all about testing. It's all about finding the best possible um, solutions, I would say. It's always about finding solutions, and it takes many tests to find the right one. But yeah, would you like to add some more introduction to our today's broadcast?
No, as if we haven't made it clear already. So today's episode is about testing, retest, test again, and it's like repeat. And I think we will probably touch on this at some point. I don't think testing is only something that you apply in a business marketing sense to see what works, but it's also in general for your life. In terms of working out what is it that you like, what is it that you don't like, what is it that you could potentially explore that might open up a new set of doors for you that you never expect to see. So I think from my perspective, it's going to be an interesting episode, testing, and we'll be able to talk about how we apply the principles of testing into not just work, but also in terms of our own personal life. So yeah, I think it's definitely a great topic. So you were talking about, I think let's start from work first, shall we? Because at the end of the
Sure.
day, we are talking about like hustling. So it's clearly something to do with setting up a business, entrepreneurship, etc. Now, how would you say, how important is testing in entrepreneurship, and why did you say that?
First of all, it just hit me, that first of all, we test industries that we are suited for. Remember our episode about picking our niche, and picking the niche, being dependable, being dependent on many different variables, and you cannot really check those variables without testing. You just need to sort of like dip your toes here and there, and then you will learn whether you are, in the good business for yourself, like whether you like it, whether whether you're good in it, right? And then you once you will find the right industry for yourself, then you need to find a good business model, and the good business model also takes a lot of testing. And honestly, even for business model, testing takes all the time, because uh, you might be to some extent right about your business model. In the beginning, you are getting some clients, you are getting some revenue, but at some point it might be not scalable anymore. So then you need to test what you need to change in your business model so you can scale your business, right? For for example, for myself, um, one of the things that I was testing, and it took me quite a lot of time to make up my mind about it, is my offer. At some point I was like really ambitious, let's say, about my services, saying that to clients that, oh, like the price of of my service for you depends on many variables. We need to talk, we need to some extent it was good strategy, because then I was making a relationship strategy. But actually, not every client want to spend time talking with you to finally get an offer who he she will, maybe not will, but might reject just based on price, right? So so right now, what was best for me to sell is that having fixed packages, and sometimes just removing one block from some passage and adding another one. So having more or less fixed price for my services, and just sending it across, and then they know the price. Okay, it's maybe the price point or not, and then they make a decision. uh, and then there is testing with many different things in business, marketing, sales, uh, managing people. Like sometimes you have to also try out different strategies when it comes to managing people, because maybe you will, for example, give a task to someone, and you will not set a deadline for this person, and this person will do this task as soon as possible, because that's their nature. But on the other hand, there might be person who will not do it as soon as possible. Then for this person, you will have to give a fixed deadline. Maybe on some people you will have to put more pressure, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like testing is important, and it's important to do it consciously, but we will develop on conscious testing later on. What's
Yeah.
your view? How do you approach testing in your business? Because I know that, for example, you don't employ anyone yet, but you are very, let's say, operational. What do you
Yeah.
do in your coaching stuff when it comes to testing?
Yeah. So in the past, I was trying to look for people to work with by using like a webinar sort of style, right? So you run a webinar, then you give people the opportunity if they think that they want to work with you further. Then they have the chance to do that. But yes, webinar is the funnel. So I think when we talk about like testing in terms of different aspects, right? So there are lots of different ways and strategies to get clients or customers or prospects or leads or whatever you want to call it. The first thing you have to decide is that you have to test to work out which one of these strategies is like what might work best for your leads, for your prospect, for your lead gen, all that kind of things, right? So that's like one layer of testing. Then once you decided that, say for example, in my case, I decided to use webinar as a channel to get my clients and get my customers and leads. Then once you drill down there are lots of things you can start testing. Do you run Facebook ads? Do you do organic? What sort of headline are you going to using? What image are you going to use? Do you use image or do you use videos? Do you use videos or do you use like some animated pictures? Or how long is your ad copy is going to be? Should you write this? Should you write that? So you can see how easily the principle of testing can go into all these different areas, even though you've just started with picking which channel you're going to go down to. So I think it really drips into every single bit of your business. And I think this is also probably the reason why that a lot of people would just give up. Because remember when I remember that, you and I both like Gary Vaynerchuk. He always say like he doesn't get romantic about the methods or the platform that he's on. He doesn't care if Facebook goes away tomorrow, or if he doesn't care about this, because he's literally not romantic about the platform. If TikTok is the latest trend, he jumps on TikTok. If Instagram is, he jumps on Instagram. There's a new feature on Instagram, he tries it. YouTube, he does it, like Facebook, he's on it. Twitch, he's on it. Twitter, he's on it. Like he just doesn't care. He just try every single thing. And I think it's the principle of willingness to try, because I think most of us just go, I've suffered the same thing, right? I would go, let's say, for example, I run a piece of ads. I know that this picture works. And I know that this kind of headline works, this kind of ad copy works. And then next time I was like, okay, I know that works. Let me try to do that. And then it doesn't work. And you're like, oh, I wonder why it doesn't work. And then it beats you down. And then you start to play around with all these little things that you can change here. But actually, I never take myself out from a wider perspective to go, you know what? That's a webinar structure. actually work, or should I be trying a different structure, like I don't know, give a free call, I don't know, or like give a free PDF or a free ebook or a free mini course or whatever. So then the possibilities start to expand. So for me, the principle of testing is not just on the micro bit on, you know, which picture to use, what to write, but it's also from macro perspective. But I don't think people go to the macro enough because they believe that their business or hustle is built upon the structures that they know work already, but they don't know that to go into the next level, like you say, to scale up, it requires a completely different methodology. And the difference is that, are you willing to take the courage to test that, knowing that if you're not careful, the whole business might, you know, tilt the other way or whatever. So I guess that's where the tipping point starts to kick in. When you're small scale, you test everything, but the larger you get, the degree of testing and courage it takes to try different things out, I think also has its own repercussions and consequences, etc. And you will just have to stomach it, basically.
Because testing means failing, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about
Yeah.
it. You test, you fail, and then you have to make another version of whatever you are testing, right?
Yeah,
And
it's a bit like, yeah.
that's what makes people either dropping off from entrepreneurship, so failure. uh, not testing itself makes them drop off, but rather failure. And or maybe also makes them like not so successful entrepreneurs, just being average. I don't want to test, I don't want to risk it. And also I wanted to mention some other thing that your what you said inspired me to think about it, is that uh, this old school entrepreneurs think that you have to be uh, consistent as fuck. But I'm not meaning consistent of being like consistent in doing certain things for so that your business works, so working hard every day. No, I'm what I mean is that if I done something to my employee once, then in the similar situation, I have to do it again. Even though I know that this method doesn't work, I will do it again. Or maybe I did something not so successful with some clients. Okay, so I will do it with new clients. The success rate will be still poor, but I will still do the same because I want to be consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you said there was that really resonated with me is that it's true. It's not about testing. Testing is just a doing. What puts people off is the hidden thing that sits underneath testing, because if it's failure, then it's all about your mindset. It's all about how you perceive things as failing. It's all the things that comes with the idea of testing that you talk yourself out of it, basically, because you're like, oh, why should I test it? It might not work. You're consistently trying to push out of your comfort zone, and you have to explore a different area, a new arena, a completely new territory that you might not have an idea where you're going to start with. And it's scary, right? Because your learning curve is like that, and then you go into testing, and then you go like that, you go into testing, you go like that. Everyone wants this straight line, but actually when you magnify that straight line, it's like this. And this is what you have to get. This is what you have to go through, basically. Or the easiest thing is just sit there and do nothing.
Okay, so how do you cope with it?
It's hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. And it took me a long time to realize that, you know what, actually, I start to question myself and go, maybe this thing about webinar is not suitable for my audience. And I learned it only after I've done the same thing for about 5 times. Right? It's not like the first time it doesn't work, you gave up immediately, you're like, try something new. No. I stick to it for a period of time. I realized that it's not quite getting where I want to be. And then it was only at the very latest one, I run my ads, etc. Some of my friends saw it, right? So I was like, okay. And then said, yeah, they're going to show up, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, they didn't show up at the end, right? And this is the one that I told you where 40 people signed up and only 2 showed up in the end, right? So obviously, they are my friends. They signed up and they didn't show up. So after the session, they sent me a message to say, oh, really sorry, blah, 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 blah. And obviously, I can beat myself up and I can be like, oh, yeah, don't worry, it's fine, you know. But I was really curious, like, why? So I asked them, like, oh, yeah, no problem. Like, you missed it, right? But why did you not come, you know? And then they're like, oh, yeah, it's just because they've got some last minute gathering or catch up with friends. So they just completely forgotten about it. And I go, okay, here's something to think about, which is, people are not committing to that. They're not doing what's convenient for them at that time, you know? So it's too big of a step to request them to do something about. You know, you're asking too much, basically, on the first instance when they don't know you. So then I started to think, okay, what can I do that people don't have as much resistance to? And then suddenly, it's like the switch inside your head just like open up. You know, when you let go of this idea, like, okay, if I just ignore this webinar channel, what else can I do? Then suddenly I go, what if I just give people access to a free mini course, like 5 minutes each, just teaching what I already teach them in a webinar, exactly the same thing, but instead of them having to be live to there to listen, what if just pick up one key bit, break them down, and it's easy for them to digest and consume. I was like, that's a thought. And then I think that's one thing, that's why I said the macro is important. But I think the second thing is you really have to be curious to find out why, and then go out there to see what else could you potentially do. Now, you might be in the digital marketing business, but what is there about construction, for example, that you might be able to learn and apply into the field of digital marketing? And that's what I was thinking at that time. You know, I was in coaching. Yes, everyone does coaching the same way. Give a free lead magnet, a free ebook, a free course, blah, 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 blah. Get them in there. I was like, everyone knows that you're going to sell something, you know? So I thought, what can I do that is differently, that can really add value to people? And when they say they want to work with you, it's because they know that they can learn something from you and not because you're trying to sell them something. You want to say something?
Yeah, I get your point, but at the same time, I know that what I'm gonna, because like I'm feeling that we are diverting a bit from testing right now, but I just wanted to add something to what you just said, is that copying from someone is also part of being entrepreneur, particularly in early stages. Have you ever heard about bootstrapping? I guess this is the topic for another broadcast for us. But bootstrapping is about using as little resources as possible, like having limited resources, and just building business out of it. And one of the techniques of bootstrapping is copying from someone, not coming up with your own, I don't know, website layout, not coming up with your own content ideas, not coming up with etc., 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 because you are focusing on doing instead of learning. So of course you can go out and do these all expensive online courses on, let's say, digital marketing, and then you will be sort of pro but without any real life experience. But maybe you will have then amazing content ideas all the time, right? But then you wasted time and money on it while you haven't been earning any money, right? So instead of doing that, you will be copying, doing, and earning money, and you will be learning in the process. But yeah, let's leave this topic for bootstrapping broadcast only. Let's get back on track with testing.
Yeah, I want to just finish off because I wasn't going off track on testing, and going back to what you mentioned about copying is exactly that. I realized that it's not that I don't want to do it, but I was just thinking, is there anything else that I might not be aware of yet? So then I started going around and I eventually found one method that some coaches use. And I was like, I want to try that, you know? I think the thing about testing is that, yes, I could copy what everyone else is doing, etc. And then just because the whole point is about doing it, right? But I also want to see, with the limited time that I've got, what is it that I can commit myself to doing fully, rather than just doing it but knowing that I won't give my all. So for example, I know that spending a lot of time writing a 60-page PDF, I don't know, I feel like there is a better way that I can do it. But before I commit to doing that, I explore all my options first and I pick which one I'm going to test next. So that was what I was going to come around. But absolutely, when you're just starting, just like me, I absolutely think you should look at what works already, do it, but you add your own little flavor and touch to it. Be the structure, copy the strategy, the formula, but you can put a bit of your own spin on that. So that was what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. You mentioned conscious testing early on. What do you mean by conscious testing?
By conscious testing, I mean that, of course, I mean, okay. So, of course, as some of you may know from behavioral psychology, there are some things that we are doing consciously, and there are some things that we are doing unconsciously. So there is a possibility that in your life, in your business, in your career, you are testing things unconsciously, just because you have this, memory in your head that you have done something in the past just wrong, you failed. So now you are approaching the same situation, the same task, the same challenge, but you are taking different approach because you have this memory that with this particular approach you failed in the past, right? But there is also but most of the time this subconscious testing, this subconscious changing something in your approach, in your strategy, in your tactic that you will approach this challenge situation, whatever, probably you will do something like turn everything around, so just flip upside down the whole idea, the whole approach, the whole strategy. And conscious testing is more of change, like, the essence of testing. For tests to be valid, you should test one variable at the time. And that's what I mean by conscious testing. Conscious testing is when you deliberately separate tests from each other and you change one variable at the time. So then you have uh, truthful results, right? Because if you just flip upside down the whole strategy, then you don't know actually what works, what doesn't. So then you can, again, from this winning strategy, you're gonna test a bit more and you can fail next time, and then it will not make no sense. But if you change one variable at the time, then you will have some more clear idea of what works and what doesn't.
Is it a bit like A/B testing, basically?
Yeah, A/B testing. Yeah.
Yeah, so for people who doesn't know, they're like, oh, what the hell is A/B testing? A/B testing is exactly what Dan said, which is, let's just use an ad copy. For example, you got headline, you got image, you got text, right? So if you want to change something, you don't change the whole thing. Like, you can't compare them like for like. If you just want to change, you want to do testing, you test it with different headlines, but you keep the same image, you keep the same text, and then you see which one performs better. Then these kind of headlines work. Then you can move on to change the next thing, test the next thing.
Yeah, but you are referring it only to advertising, but but actually the idea of A/B testing can be applied in broader sense. Like even if you have like your sales process, you can apply it there. If you have your, the way you treat your employees, you can apply it there for them to work better. If even in a relationship with someone else, you will, for example, with your brother, once you will approach him like this, but then you will change one thing when next time you approach him, and you will see different results, right?
Absolutely, like I think you can absolutely do testing in every sort of different things like communication. You might speak to this person one way, but try to speak to this person another way. How does it work, etc., etc.? Yeah, absolutely. You can apply the same principle in different areas of your life. Speaking of different areas of life, I just want to direct this conversation a little bit differently, still along the idea of testing, but we don't just build businesses, we don't just hustle, we also have this part called our life, right? Like whether it's relationship or whether it's anything, it can be health related, your workout or whatever. So how do you apply the principle of testing into other parts of your life outside of building a business and hustling?
Daily habits. I think that testing with daily habits is important. I will give you a good example from when I was still in Rotterdam studying, doing my masters. I started doing this, quite extreme CrossFit training plan, and I at the and most but most and most at that time most of my classes were late, like 10, 12. So I was thinking like, hey, I will just go to the gym in the morning, I will do the workout, and then I will just go straight to classes. Then the whole I have the whole day for myself. I don't have to worry about going to the gym in the evening. But at that time, those workouts turned out to be too intensive for me to do them in the morning. I was tired the whole day. So then I need to change it, test it, whether I will feel better while exercising in the evening. Just changing the time of the exercise, keeping the same training plan with the same intensivity, and just moving it to another time. And that's what I do right now, even with small things like um eating, going for a walk, having a nap during a day. Like, oh yeah, having a nap time during a day is a game changer. Believe me, you should do it. If you don't do it yet, try it. What else? Yeah, daily. I think daily habits. Even something like the duration of sleep. Like, people just read on the internet that you should sleep between 6 to 8 to 9 hours, right? And then people think like, oh, I like to sleep, I will sleep 9 hours. But actually, sleeping 9 hours might make you more tired than sleeping 6 hours, and people don't realize it. And they should just try it. They should go to bed at this time, wake up at this, see how they feel after sleeping 6 hours, 7, 8, 9. For me, in my of course it will change over time. When I will be older, I might need more sleep or less, I don't know. But right now, I found the sweet spot. It's 7 hours, and I find that amazing. 7 hours in the night, and of course, a good nap during a day. Like, where did you roll out principle of testing in your life?
Yeah, I was gonna say something like habits as well, like even for me, even things like journals, I've got different journals, some of them are a bit more detailed, some of them are not as detailed. I just see which ones like works best for me, right? So it's little things like that. But since you're talking about testing daily habits, I would say test your hobby. And I say that by sometimes, when you see people or you think like, oh, let's say, I don't know, I'll just give an example. Like people play piano so well, you're just like, oh, like, oh, I kind of want to try this piano thing out to see whether I can play piano or not. But most people just like, you know what? I'm just like, um, I'm just in the mood, but I'm never gonna play as good as him or her. You know what? Never mind. Doesn't matter. But for me, for example, I've always liked to see like singers or celebrities like who can sing really, really well. Like, it really fascinates me. And then guess what? For a very long time, I've been dwelling on the idea of like, oh, do I want to, try singing? I love singing and all that stuff. But then it was when lockdown happened, and I was like, now that I've got some time to myself, you know what? I'll just try this out to see what I like it or not. And before I know it, I'm already in my 13th lesson doing this. So it's like, wow, okay, then you start to realize that, actually 13 lessons, that tells you that you really love this thing, and it makes me really happy when I go attend lessons. You feel like you are learning something that you really like. But all I would say is that, if you realize that, I don't know, it might be sports that you are interested in, you realize, oh, I kind of like this water sports thing, but I never tried out. I'll just say, just try it. You might really like it, or you might realize, it's not actually quite the same that I anticipated it to be, or I imagined it to be. Then at least you don't have to, carry on with that idea for such a long time. You can just let it go and focus your time and effort and energy and money on something else. So I think that that's what I mean by testing a hobby, testing a passion out. Even that thing sounds really stupid or very basic or very simple, but just try it.
It's very clever, and I can relate to what you just said very much. I can relate it to my childhood
Mm.
when and that's funny story, because when I was still in primary school, I did judo, swimming, football, uh, playing guitar, and all those things my brother did as well. And also my brother did basketball for some time as well.
Uh-huh.
But eventually we ended up playing handball, and we played handball because most of these things we did just for 2 maximum 2 years, but handball we did for 4 years, I believe. So handball was the longest. And then even at the university, when we were, of course, in high school we had different commitments and stuff like that, so we didn't play handball. But when we went to the university, we played handball again, because we tested so much that eventually we found handball as our thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? My parents, my grandparents, my uncles and aunts laughed at us that we are not, loyal to one thing that we are doing, that we are not sticking with one thing that we start. But actually we were doing the good thing, because instead of doing something we didn't like for so many years, we were trying different things. And eventually we sticked for many years with the thing that we really liked deep inside, because we tried out, we tested different things before.
Exactly that, exactly that, like, uh, yes, it might seem like for people who don't know you, they might be thinking that, oh, he's just jumping from one thing to the other, or she's just doing this and then doing that. But you know what? The thing is, if you really find that one thing that you stick with, and guess what? That might just be the very thing that completely take your life to a whole new level. Because guess what? Every successful people, they try all sorts of things in their life. They get ridiculed by all the people around them, but they eventually found the thing that, I think it's a cliche that people say they wake up excited about that thing, but there's a reason for it, because they tested, they tried things out, and then they realized it was this thing that they really resonate with at the end of the day. And that's what makes them who they are today, because they found out that out of everything that they've chosen or played around with or tried, this is the thing that they really want to advance in or go deep on. So I really think that just try it, especially when, I'm sure that most of the people who will see this will probably be our age, and you've got like freaking 30 years at the very least in front of you.
At
And
the
if you
very
just,
least.
yeah, and
I turned 25 last week, and I think that I have at least 50 years because I take care of my body. So I think next 50 years is mine. I
and
will
if
be
you
still physically fine and mentally fine to do whatever I want for next 50 years.
and the thing is, if you live to 100, which will be possible as technology in medics advance, if you can live to 100, if that becomes a default, you've only gone through the first quarter of your entire life. So if you have to spend 2 or 3 years to find out what you like, but then what you get in return is the 20 years after that for you to work on that one thing that you really, really enjoy, and then you get so much happiness after that 20 years. 2 years for 20 years, I think that's pretty good. If you pay £2 or $2 to get 20 pounds or $20 back, would you do it? You absolutely would. So it's the same thing for your life. So I would say test your hobby and passion is something that I'll encourage you to do in your life. But it's just getting comfortable with testing.
And test your careers. Testing careers is the most important thing, because uh, like we see a lot of people sticking in their jobs that they don't really like, because they think that after 5 years spending in one company they are just too old to switch, but
Yeah.
actually they are not. Like I I met this one manager when we were working together at the same company, when I was still working at the company that you work for, and she changed her career path at the age of 50 something. I think at that time she graduated with master from a university. I believe she was doing it on the weekends, and then she switched from automotive industry to consulting, to like HR, organizational consulting, something like that. And and then I thought about my mom, who is complaining about her job all the time, and 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 my mom was like at that time 5 or 7 years younger than this manager. And I you know but I'm just, of course I cannot change my mom's thinking, but I want to make an impact at least on people who are still in their 20s and they don't have this, some strong false beliefs in them, in their minds, so that they can still change their job. So if you are still in your job for let's say 3 years now and you don't like this job, just ditch it as soon as possible, and go and test new thing that you might like.
Mm-hmm. Just following on that note, if people are interested, you can search up a term called sunk cost fallacy. It's basically saying that, say, take your example, right? If people have spent 10 years on something, they don't want to test anymore because the story they tell themselves is that, oh, but I've actually spent 10 years on this, that. They see all the costs that they cannot recover in the past 10 years and use those things to talk them out of potentially trying something new. So have a look. It's a very interesting theory that can explain why people, when you say, why don't you try this, they're like, oh, but I've already done this, or I've already invested this much. They don't switch. That's why they stick to something that doesn't work. So if you are interested, they can have a look. I'm very conscious of time, but Dan, any final takeaways for our people today about testing, whether it's in business or in life? Just some final takeaways.
Do something different every day. Make a test every day.
Mm.
Like, I mean, carry out a test every day. If you have done something yesterday and you saw that it's bringing no to mediocre results, do a test on this thing.
Cool. I would say that pay attention to where every time when you say but, I think that's an indication that it's time to try something different, because most of the time we would say, oh yeah, that would be good, but la, 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 la. And when you hear yourself saying but, then you go, oh, maybe I should try this out, because now you're feeding yourself the reasons why you shouldn't do it, when you should just ignore those voices and just try it. When I say, for example, oh, I hope I can play piano, but oh, I hope I can learn this sport, but then you should absolutely just go and try it and do it. Give yourself some time, experiment it. You like it, great. If you don't like it, fine. But yeah, I would say pay attention to but, because but is not an indication that it's worthwhile trying something different.
Well said. Well said.
Cool. Well, we've come to the end of another episode. This is episode 7 already. Can you believe it?
Lucky 7.
Lucky 7. Yes, lucky 7. So we can see that there are people watching. So if you have been watching us from the beginning to the very end, I think Dan would be on the same side with me to say we really, really, really appreciate it. Especially you have invested the time. We hope that you have managed to take a thing or two that you can really implement in your business or your life. Obviously, if there's any comments that you hope that we can improve on, or you really learn about something that has made an impact for you, leave a comment below, subscribe.
Leave a comment, subscribe, thumbs up, follow us on Instagram, leave comments on Instagram, leave likes on Instagram. Do everything of it.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know, so we also want to make it better, right? So we are also testing, we are also trying,
Exactly.
but
exactly.
we need a feedback to make it better. Exactly that. Right, shall we stop there, and then we will be back next week?
Yeah, next week, 8 p.m. GMT time.
Yes, it's BST now, actually, because we're in British summertime.
Okay.
Clock has changed, but we know it. Right. See you then, Dan. Take care.
Bye.
Take care, buddy. Goodbye.